Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. Welcome to the world of JCB wine style. We are back to the history of the world of Pinot, Burgundy, with our fabulous friend, Gregory Patriat, the man who made the JC Boisset wines. So magical, mystical, and vibrational. He's full of energy and magnetism, and you're going to see why. Bonjour, Grégoire.
How are you, Jean-Charles? Hi,
well,
everybody.
Now I feel the energy that you're giving us from one of the oldest vineyards in the Côte de Nuit right now, where you are. This is so exciting.
We are in the heart of the Côte de Nuit. You can see here in the middle of 60 years old vineyard, so quite old.
Well, luckily, you are half of the age. You just turned 30, I understand.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell you the exact one, but in middle, close to middle age, I would say.
Well, Gregory, first of all, let's have a toast, because we won't say the year because it's too recent, and many people will be jealous that we were born in 89 and 94, but let's have a toast to September 4th.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Santé.
To our birthday, because, dear friends, now you know forever, you could wish Gregory on September 4th a happy birthday as well as me, because we born on the same day, same hour, but not the same year. He is luckily much older than I am, so much more older. So, Gregory, tell us about Chambolle-Musigny, where you are, because, I mean, look at this wine. This is really magic. This is, for me, one of my favorite wine of all time, dear friends. And I need to tell you, this is my mother's favorite. I mean, look at this. Chambolle-Musigny. Ay, 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 ay. I'm drinking the vintage 2018, which is part of the top wines of history. So, Gregory, tell us why Chambolle is so special.
Chambolle, I would say Musigny is unique in Burgundy. It's not as well known as Nuits-Saint-Georges, where the winery is, not as well known as Gevrey-Chambertin, where you have 9 Grand Crus. In Chambolle-Musigny, you have only 2 Grand Crus, the famous Le Musigny and Bonne-Mare. So really, but I would say these 2 Grand Crus are Grand Crus for really real Burgundian wine lovers, because they are not the most well known as well. Chambolle-Musigny has something unique, maybe that other villages don't have. This is what we call limestone. You can guess here this wall. Look at that. It's maybe 15 meters high. It's all about limestone. Burgundy is a big limestone where we have planted some vineyard on it. So that's the key about Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir loves limestone. Pinot Noir loves very poor soil, very thin soil, and all the recipe to make top Pinot Noir is really here in Burgundy. And I love Chambolle because in vintages like 2021, for example, this year, this is the kind of soil where you have the highest ratio level of drainage. So the drainage in Chambolle-Musigny is always very good because the soil, one more time, is very poor. So when you get water there, it doesn't stay. It goes through and it doesn't stay in the soil. So that means the wine and the grapes, the vineyard, do not suffer from the excess of water that sometimes we could get in 2021. So this is really the village where you make the most elegant, the most refined Pinots in Burgundy. Do not expect big tannins, do not expect big power, something really spectacular. Chambolle is all about finesse and elegance.
So when you say elegance in wine, Gregory, what do you mean? Because what I'm a fan about the Boisset winery that we really defined together 22 years ago now, that was our vision. Vibrational wine, magnetic wine, sophisticated and elegant. Define what you mean by elegant.
So that means Chambolle has, I would say, less tannins, less power, less exuberance, but much more sophisticated style. So that means when you put some Chambolle in your mouth or on the nose, of course, you have always beautiful, fresh aromas of Pinot with a lot of freshness. And on the mouth, it's all about the length. The length is the key in Chambolle-Musigny. In other villages of the Côte de Nuit, you can get the power. In Chambolle-Musigny, you have a length that never finishes. You know, it's always when you leave the wine and you breathe a little bit in the mouth, and you have a persistence that you don't get in any other villages in the Côte de Nuit. So this is what I mean by finesse and elegance. It's really the length and the persistence, and never, always there's a small amount of tannins, always in Chambolle-Musigny, but never lack of structure. It's not easy to explain, but it's a combination of finesse and power, but with finesse dominates, I would say. But it's all about lightness, I would say as well.
I'm fully with you, and I really sense what you're saying. Now, Gregory, can we get closer to the rootstock? I would love for you to show us closer the vines, and you are around 6'2". Gregory is around 1.85 m, so he's tall. You can see the vineyards in Burgundy are much lower. They come to his hip, and they go very low fruit zone to be close to the ground, for the heat of the ground. So describe us what we see, the rootstocks and the soil.
Yeah, in Burgundy, compared to California, or even the south of France, for example, which are similar. Here, we have 10,000 vine foot per hectare. So that means there's a kind of competition between this vineyard here and this vineyard here and this vineyard behind me. So the vines are very, very close. So 3 times more than other wine regions.
I like when you get on your knees in front of the rootstock. That's very good. Lisa Brown is telling us it's a very sexy movement. You're praying for the vines.
Yeah, so that means there's a competition between each vine foot. So that means it forces the roots to go deep in the soil. So if there is too much space between two vine foots, there's not enough competition. So that means they compete each other, and really the roots are going deeper in the soil. So you have the consequences. You have much more terroir impact here. So it's really, you feel much more the terroir experience. So where it's coming from is very individual. So that's very, very important. Here, it's an old Massal selection. We call that in Burgundy. Huh? It's too old to be a clone. So it's a Massal selection. And here is the grape variety, the Pinot Noir. And just under my hand here, you have the rootstock, which is American, in fact. So these vine fruit, if they are planted in France, they are a little bit half American as well.
Yeah, so explain why they're half American, because it's a big deal, dear friends. The friendship of the United States and France is not just political. It is at all levels of the economy, including agriculture and viticulture. So Gregory is going to tell us the story of what happened in the 19th century.
Yeah, we have a small insect in late, I think this is 1860 something. There was a small insect called the phylloxera, which was in the soil, and which is really feeding the roots, and it kills all the vines in France and mostly in Europe. And after that, the only solution to really fight against this insect was to use a rootstock coming from the US. So it was crafted. So the Pinot Noir here at the top was crafted to an American rootstock, and that was the only, and it's still the only solution to fight, really, to erase this terrible insect called the phylloxera. It has really destroyed the French production the late 19th century.
Yes, and very luckily we went back and forth between this Franco-American friendship where we shared knowledge and the roots back and forth in order to fight against this disease. So it's been a great partnership, hasn't it, Gregory?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing chemical here. It's just about a natural association that really makes it work.
So, Gregory, when we talk about Chambolle-Musigny, the root of the vines go very deep. Would you want to explain us further about that? Because we feel in the style of the wine, the root gets its food and taste from the ground.
Well, with a kind of vineyard like this one, which is something like 60 years old, and the competition, one more time, that you have between this vine and that vine fruit here, and the roots can go really, really deep in the soil, sometimes close to 10 meters in the soil. So that's really, really impressive. Imagine years, vintages after vintages, all these roots that are digging a long hole in the soil. So 10 meters is really far away. And this is really where they are providing, where the energy and all, most of the nutriments of the vine fruit is coming from. So really far away in the soil. And this is what we call, in fact, the terroir expression.
So, Gregory, what would you pair Chambolle-Musigny with what kind of food?
Chambolle-Musigny must have really, you must pair it with very, very light food, with a beautiful fish, you know, a bar, I don't know, a cabillaud. I love the Chambolle-Musigny with fish would be really, really perfect.
And because it has that elegance and sophistication, right?
Yeah, you don't need to go with strong, heavy roasted meat here, but you can use fish one more time, and you can use white meat as well. It's pairing very, very well. But light food with a light, and no, I don't like to say light wine. It's not light. It's sophisticated
and persistent. I mean,
Absolutely.
As I taste it, it has a lot of lasting, phenomenal mouthfeel.
Yeah, and 12.5, 13, between 12.5 and 13 of alcohol. So that's very, very light. And you, after one glass, you have only one choice to get a second one.
I love that. So, in terms of vinification and aging, how did you make this vintage? And we're trying the famous 2018.
So 18 was an interesting vintage. It was the first one in the new winery. So there's, I would say at first, a lot of stress behind this wine, because that was really the first winery, the new environment for the grapes as well. And you know what? We didn't have enough time to be afraid, because we started to harvest the 23rd of August of 18. And like every vintages, we use only natural yeast. We don't add any specific product to the wine. So we try to be as pure as possible. And the less you feel the hand of the winemaker, the best it is. So 90% of this quality of wine is made in the vineyard. So the less you feel my hand, I would say the best it is. So we put these grapes in tank, and we vinify with no sulfur. That's very important to say it, because one more time, to have much more purity. When you vinify with no sulfur, you get much more purity in the wine. 3 weeks of maceration, and after it goes straight with 18 months aging in French with French oak here before the bottling.
Well, This is absolutely my mother's favorite wine, as you know. She loves it. And she finds it, as you said, very refined, sophisticated, and delicate. This is very much like lace and silk. I'm very impressed with this wine. So what would be your last romantic moment if you were looking at Vanessa's beautiful eyes and having this wine? What would you, or Diana, I give you a choice, or both.
No, there's no choice, no option. No, this wine really, we can say Chambolle is romantic. I would say it's really for a wedding. That's the perfect wine for love, I would say.
Ooh, I like that statement. So you said it's a love wine.
Yep.
Well, Gregory, thank you so much for this amazing, in-depth explanation about Chambolle-Musigny Terroir, the rootstock, the vines that were saved by the United States in 1896, to the world that brings us together, which is great wine, great food, sophistication, delicacy, and great touch. So congratulations, Grégoire.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.